The day started like any other on Earth. People went about their daily lives, unaware that everything was about to change. In New York, London, Beijing, and other major cities, people rushed to work, grabbed coffee, and checked their phones. No one knew that high above them, something big was coming. Suddenly, the sky lit up. It wasn't the sun or lightning. Huge ships, bigger than anything humans had ever seen, appeared out of nowhere. They were sleek, shiny, and clearly not from Earth. People stopped in their tracks, mouths open, staring at the sky. Cars screeched to a halt. Phones came out, recording the impossible sight. News channels quickly switched to live coverage. Reporters, usually calm and collected, struggled to find words. We are seeing what appears to be alien ships, one stuttered, her eyes wide with disbelief. Military bases around the world went on high alert. Fighters' jets took off, ready to defend Earth. But as they approached the alien ships, their engines suddenly died. The jets fell from the sky like stones, pilots ejecting in panic. World leaders gathered in emergency meetings. They tried to contact the ships, sending messages in all languages. For hours, there was no response. The world held its breath, waiting. Then, it happened. Every TV, radio, phone, and computer on Earth turned on by itself. A face appeared on the screens. It wasn't human. The alien had blue skin, large eyes, and no hair. When it spoke, its words were somehow understood by everyone, no matter what language they spoke. People of Earth, the alien said, its voice deep and echoing. We are the Galactic Empire. We rule over 1,000 worlds. Your planet is in our way. We give you two choices, surrender or run. The alien paused, letting its words sink in. If you surrender, you will serve the Empire. If you choose to run, we will give you 1 Earth month to leave your planet. After that, we will take it, with or without you on it. The message ended. Screens went dark. For a moment, the whole world was silent. Then, chaos broke out. People ran into the streets, crying and shouting. Some rushed to stores, buying all the food and water they could. Others hugged their loved ones, fearing the worst. In Washington, D.C., the President of the United States tried to calm the nation. We will not give up, she said, her voice shaking slightly. We have faced challenges before. We will face this one too. Other world leaders made similar speeches, but behind closed doors, they were scared. How could they fight an empire that could turn off their most advanced jets like they were toys? Scientists and military experts worked day and night, trying to understand the alien technology. But it was like cavemen trying to understand smartphones. The gap was too big. Some people started building underground bunkers. Others formed groups, planning to fight the aliens with whatever weapons they had. A few even tried to build spaceships, hoping to escape Earth. As the first day came to an end, the alien ships still hung in the sky, silent and threatening. People looked up at them, wondering what the next day would bring. Would they have to leave the only home they'd ever known? Or would they find a way to fight back? The Galactic Empire had given its ultimatum. Now, humanity had to make its choice. The clock was ticking, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. 3 days after the Galactic Empire's ultimatum, world leaders gathered in secret. They met in an old bunker deep under the Swiss Alps. The room was cold and damp, but no one cared. They had bigger problems. The U.S. president spoke first. We can't run, she said, her voice firm. Earth is our home. We must fight. The Chinese premier nodded. But how? Their tech is. It's like magic to us. We've faced long odds before, the British Prime Minister added. We beat the Nazis. We survived the Cold War. We can beat these aliens too. For hours they argued. Some wanted to surrender. Better to live as slaves than die fighting, they said. Others wanted to try running. We could build ships, find a new home, they suggested. But in the end, they all agreed. Humanity would stand and fight. As the leaders made plans, something amazing was happening around the world. People were coming together. Old enemies became friends. Countries that had fought for centuries now worked side by side. In a lab in Tokyo, scientists worked day and night. They studied the few pieces of alien tech they had. "Look at this," one scientist said, holding up a small device. "It seems to bend light itself." In Silicon Valley, tech geniuses gathered. They combined their knowledge, trying to create new weapons. "If we can't match their tech," one coder said, "we'll outsmart it." Universities opened their doors to anyone with ideas. Students worked with professors, sharing thoughts and plans. "No idea is too crazy," they said. "We need every brain we can get." In fields and forests, people started training. They learned guerrilla tactics, how to hide, how to fight against a stronger enemy. "We know this land," an old farmer told a group of young people. "They don't. That's our advantage." Not everyone joined the fight. Some people hid in bunkers. Others tried to build ships to escape. But most of humanity stood together, ready to defend their home. The alien ships still hung in the sky, silent and watching. Sometimes, small craft would fly down, scanning the earth. But they didn't attack. Not yet. They were waiting for the month to end. As the days passed, Earth changed. Cities became workshops. Factories stopped making cars and started making weapons. Schools taught survival skills alongside math and science. But it wasn't all grim preparation. In this time of crisis, the best of humanity shone through. Neighbors helped each other. Rich people shared their wealth. Poor people shared their skills. Everyone had a role to play. Music and art flourished too. Songs of defiance and hope spread across the internet. Artists painted murals of Earth standing strong against the stars. Writers penned stories of human bravery and alien defeat. 20 days after the ultimatum, humanity was ready. They had new weapons, new strategies, and most importantly, new hope. They knew the odds were against them. They knew many would die, but they also knew they had no choice. In the same bunker where the leaders had met, they gathered again. This time, they addressed the world together. "People of Earth," they said, their faces on every screen. "The aliens gave us a choice. Surrender or run. We choose neither. We choose to fight. We choose to stand for our home, our families, our future. We may not have their technology, but we have something stronger. We have the human spirit." As the speech ended, cheers erupted around the world. From the streets of New York to the plains of Africa, from the mountains of Asia to the beaches of Australia, humanity roared its defiance. The Galactic Empire had made a big mistake. They thought humans would be easy to conquer. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The day had come. 1 month after the Galactic Empire's ultimatum, Earth was as ready as it could be. The moon base, humanity's farthest outpost, was on high alert. It was here that the first battle would take place. Commander Sarah Chen looked out the base's window at the Earth below. It looked so peaceful from up here. But she knew better. Turning to her crew, she spoke firmly. "This is it, people. We're humanity's first line of defense. Let's make Earth proud." Suddenly, alarms blared. The Empire's ships were approaching. They were massive, dwarfing the moon base. Commander Chen's heart raced, but her voice remained calm as she gave orders. The base's new weapons, a mix of traditional tech and reverse-engineered alien parts, were ready. As the Empire's ships came into range, Chen gave the order. "Fire." Beams of energy shot out from the moon base. They hit the lead alien ship, causing it to shudder. For a moment, hope surged through the human defenders. Their weapons worked. But then the Empire struck back. Their ships fired weapons unlike anything humans had seen. The moon's surface erupted as if hit by invisible meteors. The base shook violently. "Shields at 60%, shouted the defense officer. Chen gritted her teeth. They had expected this, but experiencing it was different. Inside the base, engineers worked frantically to keep systems online. Medics treated the injured. Everyone had a job, and despite their fear, they did it. In space, a dance of death played out. Human ships, small and agile, darted between the massive Empire vessels. They were like mosquitoes attacking elephants, but every sting counted. Captain Yuki Tanaka led the space fighters. Her voice crackled over the radio. Remember your training. Use their size against them. The human ships used hit-and-run tactics. They'd fire, then quickly hide behind moon craters. The Empire ships were powerful but slow to turn. This strategy worked for a while. But the Empire had numbers and technology on their side. One by one, human ships were hit. Each loss was felt deeply. These weren't just pilots. They were humanity's best and bravest. Back on Earth, people watched the battle through telescopes and grainy video feeds. They saw flashes of light in the sky, knowing each one could mean lives lost. In homes, schools, and public squares, people huddled together, praying for victory. Hours passed. The moon base was heavily damaged. Half the human fleet was destroyed. But they had also hurt the Empire. Several alien ships floated dead in space, taken out by lucky shots or clever tactics. Commander Chen looked at her battered crew. They were tired, scared, but still fighting. She made a hard decision. "We've done our job," she said. "We've shown them we can hurt them. Now we need to save what we can. Initiate evacuation protocol." The order was given. The remaining human ships began retreating towards Earth. The moon base, humanity's foothold in space, was abandoned. As they flew back to Earth, the survivors watched the Empire ships destroy the moon base. It exploded in a flash of light, visible even from Earth. Captain Tanaka's voice came over the radio, tired but determined. "We lost the battle," she said, "but this is just the beginning. We've learned from this. Next time, we'll do better." As news of the battle's outcome reached Earth, there was sadness for the lives lost, but also, surprisingly, hope. Humanity had stood against the mighty Galactic Empire, and while not victorious, had proved they weren't easy prey. In cities around the world, people gathered. They lit candles for the fallen and shared stories of the battle's bravery. World leaders spoke of the sacrifice of the moon-based defenders and promised to honor their memory by continuing the fight. Scientists and military strategists pored over battle data, looking for weaknesses in the Empire's tactics and technology. Every bit of information was valuable. As night fell on Earth, people looked up at the moon, now scared by battle. It was a stark reminder of the war's reality. But as they gazed up, many felt a new resolve growing within them. The first battle was over. The war had truly begun. And humanity, bloodied but unbroken, prepared for what would come next. 2 weeks after the moon base battle, Earth was buzzing with activity. The loss had been hard, but it had also taught humanity valuable lessons. Now those lessons were being put to use. In a secret lab deep under the Australian outback, Dr. Amelia Wong stared at a piece of alien technology. It was a small device recovered from the battle. "This is it," she whispered, her eyes wide. "This is how they control their ships." Her team gathered around. For days, they had been working nonstop, trying to understand the alien tech. Now, they were close to a breakthrough. Meanwhile, in the forests of Brazil, a different kind of preparation was underway. Carlos, a former jungle guide, was teaching a group of soldiers. "The aliens rely on their tech," he said, "but we know the land. We can use that." The soldiers nodded, their faces serious. They were learning guerrilla tactics, how to hide, how to strike fast and disappear. These skills would be crucial in the coming battles. Across the world, similar scenes played out. In India, computer experts worked on hacking alien communications. In Russia, engineers built new weapons based on what they'd learned. In Africa, farmers developed ways to hide entire villages from alien scans. But the Empire wasn't idle. Their ships still hung in the sky, a constant reminder of the threat. Sometimes they would attack a city or a military base. Each attack was devastating, but also a chance to learn. One day, in a small town in Canada, something changed. An alien ship appeared, ready to attack. But this time, the humans were ready. As the ship fired its weapons, a strange field appeared around the town. The alien blasts hit the field and fizzled out. Dr. Wong's voice came over the radio, excited. "It works. The shield works." The alien ship, confused, tried to leave, but suddenly it lost power and crashed to the ground. In a nearby forest, Carlos and his team emerged. They had used the alien device Dr. Wong had studied to shut down the ship. For the first time, humanity had won a clear victory. The news spread like wildfire. People cheered in the streets. Hope, which had been in short supply, now flowed freely. But wise leaders knew this was just the beginning. They gathered in a secret meeting to plan the next steps. "We can't win in a direct fight," said the Chinese general. "But we don't have to. We just need to make Earth too costly for them to take." The others nodded. A new strategy was forming. Instead of big battles, they would fight many small ones. They would use the aliens' technology against them. They would make Earth a place the Empire couldn't conquer. As the meeting ended, a young scientist spoke up. "I have an idea," she said. "What if we could turn their own ships against them?" The room fell silent. It was a bold idea, maybe impossible. But then again, a month ago, fighting aliens had seemed impossible too. "Tell us more," said the U.S. president. As the leaders listened, plans were made. This would be their biggest gamble yet. But if it worked, it could change everything. Outside the meeting room, life on Earth had changed. People still went to work and school, but now they also trained for war. Every child learned basic survival skills. Every adult had a role in the defense plans. In parks and squares, people practiced evacuation drills. In factories, workers built both everyday goods and weapons. Artists created morale-boosting works, while scientists worked on new inventions. The aliens had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they found a planet united, determined, and increasingly dangerous. Humanity, with its back against the wall, was showing its true strength. As night fell, people looked up at the sky. The alien ships were still there, threatening. But now, when humans saw them, they didn't feel fear. They felt determination. The Empire had made a big mistake. They had threatened humanity's home. Now, they were about to learn why that was a bad idea. The next phase of the war was about to begin. And this time, humanity was ready to take the fight to the stars. The war had been raging for 3 months. Earth was battered but not broken. Humans had learned to fight smart, not just hard. Today, they would put everything on the line. In a hidden base under the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Amelia Wong stood before a giant screen. Her team of scientists and soldiers watched nervously. "This is it," she said. "Operation Trojan Horse begins now." Across the globe, resistance fighters got ready. They had one shot at this. If it worked, they could turn the tide of the war. High above Earth, the Empire's biggest ship hung in space. It was massive, like a floating city. The aliens called it the World Breaker. Humans called it their target. Captain Yuki Tanaka, survivor of the moon base battle, led a small fleet towards the World Breaker. Her ships looked damaged and weak. It was all part of the plan. "This is Tanaka," she radioed. "We're in position. Beginning phase 1. Her ship started firing at the World Breaker. Their shots were weak, barely scratching the huge ship. The Empire took the bait. The World Breaker's cannons lit up. Energy beams shot out, destroying half of Tanaka's fleet in seconds. But Tanaka smiled. Everything was going according to plan. As the battle raged in space, something was happening inside the World Breaker. Tiny robots, built by Dr. Wong's team, had sneaked aboard during the chaos. They were so small, the Empire's scans missed them. These robots carried humanity's secret weapon, a computer virus unlike any other. It was designed to take control of the Worldbreaker's systems. Back on Earth, millions watched the space battle on screens. They saw Tanaka's fleet being destroyed. Many feared this was the end, but in secret bases, resistance leaders waited anxiously. They knew the real fight was happening inside the enemy ship. Hours passed. The space battle was almost over. Tanaka's fleet was down to her last few ships. The Worldbreaker seemed unstoppable. Then suddenly, it happened. The Worldbreaker's lights flickered. Its weapons went silent. For a moment, the massive ship just floated in space. In the underwater base, Dr. Wong's team erupted in cheers. "We're in," she shouted. "We have control." The virus had worked. Humanity now controlled the most powerful ship in the Empire's fleet. Captain Tanaka's voice crackled over the radio. "This is Tanaka. Worldbreaker is under our control. I repeat, Worldbreaker is ours." Across Earth, people poured into the streets. They hugged strangers, cried, and looked up at the sky in wonder. For the first time since the war began, victory felt possible. But the fight wasn't over. The Empire, shocked by the loss of their prized ship, launched a fierce counterattack. Smaller ships swarmed around the Worldbreaker, trying to destroy it before humans could use it. Inside the captured ship, Earth's best pilots and engineers worked frantically. They had to figure out how to use this alien technology, and fast. Dr. Wong's voice guided them through the alien systems. "Reroute power to the main cannon," she instructed. "Prepare to fire on my mark." The Worldbreaker, once Earth's greatest threat, was now its greatest hope. Its massive cannon began to glow. "Fire," Dr. Wong shouted. A beam of energy, more powerful than anything humans had ever wielded, shot out from the Worldbreaker. It tore through the Empire's fleet, destroying dozens of ships in one blast. The remaining Empire ships retreated, fleeing Earth's orbit for the first time since the war began. As the last enemy ship disappeared, a deafening cheer arose from Earth. In every city, town, and village, humans celebrated. They had stood against the mighty Galactic Empire and won a major victory. But wise leaders knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would be back, angrier and more determined than ever. Earth had won a battle, but the war was far from over. Still, something had changed. Humans looked up at the stars with new eyes. They had taken the Empire's best weapon and made it their own. They had proved that even against impossible odds, humanity could find a way. As night fell, the Worldbreaker hung in the sky, a symbol of hope. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, Earth celebrated. The turning point had come, and humanity was ready for whatever came next. 2 weeks had passed since humanity's great victory. The captured Worldbreaker hung in Earth's orbit, a symbol of hope. But the peace was about to be shattered. Early one morning, alarms blared across the globe. The Empire had returned, and this time, they brought their full might. Thousands of ships filled the sky, more than anyone had ever seen. The Empire's main fleet had arrived, and they were angry. In the UN emergency bunker, world leaders gathered. The U.S. president's face was grim. "They're here for revenge," she said, "and to take back what we stole." Screens lit up with reports from around the world. The Empire was attacking everywhere at once. Cities were being bombarded. Millions fled their homes. In orbit, Captain Yuki Tanaka prepared the Worldbreaker for battle. "All hands to stations," she ordered. "This is what we've trained for." But something was wrong. The ship's systems were sluggish. Dr. Amelia Wong's voice came over the radio, panic in her tone. The Empire must have had a backup plan. "They're trying to shut down the Worldbreaker remotely." On the ground, the situation was dire. Empire ships landed in major cities. Alien troops poured out, armed with weapons humans had never seen before. In New York, The Statue of Liberty crumbled under alien fire. In Beijing, the Great Wall was scared by massive explosions. The Eiffel Tower in Paris became a twisted wreck of metal. Humanity fought back with everything they had. Guerrilla fighters ambushed alien patrols in city streets. Underground bunkers launched secret weapons. But it wasn't enough. The Empire's technology was too advanced, their numbers too great. Hour by hour, they pushed humanity back. In orbit, Captain Tanaka and her crew fought desperately to keep control of the Worldbreaker. "We can't lose this ship," she shouted. "It's our only hope." Dr. Wong worked frantically, her fingers flying over keyboards. She was in a race against time, trying to counter the Empire's hack. On Earth, millions huddled in shelters, listening to the sounds of battle above. Parents comforted crying children. Old people shared stories of past wars, but nothing compared to this. As night fell, the Empire launched its biggest attack yet. A massive ship, even larger than the Worldbreaker, appeared. It was the Empire's new flagship, built to replace the one humans had stolen. The new ship fired a weapon unlike anything seen before. A beam of energy shot towards Earth, carving a deep trench across Africa. The continent was split in two, oceans rushing in to fill the gap. Panic spread across the world. This weapon could destroy the entire planet. Humanity's leaders faced an impossible choice: surrender or watch Earth be torn apart. In the Worldbreaker, alarms blared. The Empire's hack was almost complete. In minutes, they would regain control of the ship. Captain Tanaka looked at her crew, tears in her eyes. "It's been an honor," she said. Then she turned to the communications officer. "Send the signal." On Earth, military bases received the message. It was a code they had hoped never to use. The order for Earth's final stand. Around the world, hidden silos opened. Rockets launched, carrying humanity's last-ditch weapons. These weren't normal bombs. They were designed to create artificial black holes, a technology humans had been working on in secret. As the rockets flew towards the Empire's fleet, Dr. Wong made a desperate move. "If I can't keep control of the Worldbreaker," she said, "I'll make sure no one can use it." She activated a virus, one that would destroy the ship's systems completely. It was a terrible loss, but necessary. The Worldbreaker, once humanity's greatest weapon, began to break apart. Captain Tanaka and her crew evacuated, watching their ship die as they fled. In space, the black hole bombs detonated. Small singularities appeared among the Empire's fleet, swallowing ships whole. The massive flagship was torn apart, its planet-killing weapon destroyed. But the cost was enormous. Much of Earth's surface was in ruins. Millions had died, and humanity had lost the Worldbreaker, their greatest defense. As dawn broke, survivors emerged from shelters. They looked up at a sky filled with debris, the remains of the greatest space battle in Earth's history. The Empire had been pushed back, but at a terrible price. Now, as humans began to rebuild, they knew one thing for certain: the final battle was yet to come. 6 months had passed since the Empire's devastating attack. Earth was scared but not defeated. In hidden bases around the world, humans prepared for their final stand. Dr. Amelia Wong stood before a group of world leaders. "We've decoded their language," she said, "and we found something important. The Empire is not as united as we thought." Excited whispers filled the room. This could change everything. Meanwhile, in orbit, Captain Yuki Tanaka led a fleet of ships. Some were human-made, others captured from the Empire. "All ships report in," she said. This ragtag fleet was Earth's last hope. On the ground, guerrilla leader Carlos gathered his troops. "Remember," he said, "we're fighting for every tree, every river, every child. This is our home." The plan was daring, perhaps even crazy, but it was all they had left. As dawn broke, the Empire's fleet appeared. Thousands of ships filled the sky. On Earth, millions watched, hearts pounding. This was it. The final battle had begun. Tanaka's fleet engaged the Empire in orbit, but instead of attacking, they broadcast a message. It was in the Empire's own language, crafted from Dr. Wong's research. People of the Empire, the message said, your leaders have lied to you. This war is not for glory. It's for greed. How many of you have died for their lies? On Earth, Carlos and his forces struck. They didn't attack the alien troops. Instead, they approached with signs of peace, speaking the Empire's language. We don't want to fight you, they said. We just want to live. Don't you want the same? Confusion spread through the Empire's ranks. For the first time, they heard the humans speak. They saw not savages, but people defending their home. In space, Tanaka's fleet continued broadcasting. They shared stories of Earth, of human culture and art. They showed images of the destruction the war had caused. Is this what your empire stands for? They asked. Destroying worlds, killing innocents. Hours passed. The expected attack didn't come. Instead, something incredible happened. Empire ships began to lower their weapons. On the ground, alien troops stood down. Some even began talking with the humans, sharing stories and rations. The Empire's leaders, watching from their command ship, were furious. Attack, they ordered. Destroy them all. But their orders were met with silence. Then, one by one, Empire ships began to turn, not towards Earth, but towards the command ship. A new voice came over the communications channel. It was an Empire captain. We will not destroy another world, he said. This war is over. Cheers erupted across Earth. In orbit, human and Empire ships flew side by side. On the ground, former enemies shook hands. The Empire's leaders were arrested by their own troops. The war that had nearly destroyed Earth had ended not with a battle, but with understanding. In the days that followed, peace talks began. The Empire, it turned out, was made up of many species, most of whom had been oppressed by their leaders. Earth's resistance had inspired them to seek freedom. Humanity had not only saved itself, but had brought change to an entire galactic civilization. 1 year after the war's end, Earth hosted a grand celebration. Ships from across the galaxy arrived, bringing visitors eager to learn about the small planet that had changed everything. Dr. Wong, Captain Tanaka, and Carlos stood on a stage before a cheering crowd. They were hailed as heroes, not just of Earth, but of galactic peace. We faced extinction, Dr. Wong said in her speech, but we never gave up. We used not just our weapons, but our minds and our hearts. And in doing so, we found not an enemy, but new friends among the stars. As night fell, fireworks lit up the sky. But the most beautiful lights were the ships in orbit, a symbol of the new peace. Earth had been warned to run. Instead, they stood their ground. And in doing so, they hadn't just saved their world, they had changed the galaxy. As humans looked up at the stars, they no longer felt fear. The galaxy wasn't a threat anymore. It was a new frontier, full of wonders to explore and friends to meet. The war was over, and humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.